Tick-tock, how many ways can we tell the time? Telling the time. Why do we need to tell time? It is important to know the time for a number of reasons. Knowing what time it is can be very useful. For example, you need to know the time to go to an appointment or to watch a film at the cinema. We can learn about so many different clocks, so many different ways to tell the time. There are cuckoo clocks, digital clocks, analog clocks, sand timers, watches, sundials, and stopwatches. Let's see what some of these do. Analog clocks. Analog clocks can either have two hands, an hour hand and a minute hand, or three hands, an hour hand, a minute hand, and a second hand. The hands move around the clock face, and this is how we tell the time. The face of the clock is a flat disc. It will often have numbers around the edges to make it easier to show the time. It shows 12 hours of the day. For the whole day to pass, the hour hand must go around the clock twice. Digital clocks. Digital clocks use numbers to tell the times instead of hands. Unlike an analog clock, which only shows 12 hours, a digital clock can either show 12 or 24 hours. 3 a.m. Digital clocks are often smaller than analog clocks, as the numbers are easier to read. Some digital clocks also have a radio on them, so people can use them as alarms to wake up in the morning. Sand timer. A sand timer uses sand trickling through a glass to measure the time. It can sometimes be called an hourglass. Sand timers can be used to measure minutes, hours, or even days. They are sometimes used in a kitchen to help people know when things are cooked, like when they're cooking boiled eggs. Stopwatch. A stopwatch doesn't tell the time. It times how long it takes to do something. If you press the button to start the timer, and then you press the button to stop it. Large stopwatches are sometimes used in events such as the Olympic Games, when athletes are timed to see how fast they can run. A watch. A watch is a small clock that can be worn on your wrist. Watches show analog or digital time and come in a range of colours, patterns, and materials. Watches can be carried in a person's pocket. These are called pocket watches. A chain used to be attached to the watch to stop it from getting lost. Sundial. A sundial is an old form of clock that uses the position of the sun to tell the time. People used these a long time ago to help them work out what time of the day it was. The sun casts a shadow over the clock, which points to the correct time. Some people now have them in their gardens for decoration. Cuckoo clock. Some clocks use sound to help tell the time. Cuckoo clocks have an analog clock face, but then they have a unique feature when it reaches an o'clock. They often have a small door on the clock, and when the clock reaches the next hour, the clock makes a sound and a small bird pops out and says cuckoo. There are many different clocks and many different ways of telling time. This week we're going to be concentrating on analog clocks and digital clocks.